Oh shit, we never got the names, babe. What the podcast?
Live on BS69. We have a new artist called Lucinda Karma, codename Lucifer, aka Lucy. Dropping a new exclusive called Let's Play Radio. This shit is hot. This shit is motherfucking fire. Check it out.
Let's pretend black people ain't getting cut down. Let's pretend killing innocent children is allowed. Pretend everyone with melanin in their skin will never be productive, lucrative citizens without entering a life of crime. Pretend lawmen don't perpetuate segregated lines. Pretend schools that are minority populated are like the private schools in the way they're educated. Let's pretend money don't breed air. Let's pretend I don't need millions to be the president. Let's forget about all the trouble and get away. Cause I got the keys, you got the keys. Check it, everybody has the key to the city. Let's unlock every door, on every floor. And make our oppressions, give us some more. More freedom, real freedom, with no coliseums in the form of televisions. Keep our minds in prisons. Let's pretend we are evolution. Creatively thinking for critical resolutions. This is a game called Let's Play Radio.
Hey! Hey! That's hot. Ah, bring that back. Bring that back. Bring that back. Bring that back. All right.
Coming to you live on BS69. We have a new artist called Lucinda Karma, codename Lucifer, aka Lucy. Dropping a new exclusive called Let's Play Radio.
That's hot, y'all. That's hot.
Check it out.
That's hot, y'all. Hey! What's going on, y'all? What's going on? What's going on? You are listening to one of our guests from today's panel. Miss Lucinda, Lucy Karma is going to be here today, y'all. Ah, that's hot. I don't care what y'all say. I like it. I like it a lot. What's going on, everybody? Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to episode 2 of the Trans Sister Radio Show with your host, me. I am Tiara Latrice Kelly. You can grab your tea, grab your trees, grab your snacks. We're going to have a chit chat today. It's going to be a good show, and we are going to have a good time today, y'all. I'm so super excited about everything that's happening on this show today. Like I said, it's going to be a sickening show. And make sure you stay tuned because I will be selecting the winner of our Click for Cash $100 free cash giveaway this episode. Yes, I will. Somebody by the end of this episode will know if they won $100. But you have to be here to claim the money. If you're not here, we'll move on. I'm going to do it 3 times and then we'll go from there, okay? So again, welcome. Now first, at the top of the hour, First of all, we here at Trans Sister Radio Show would like to take a moment to reflect on all those affected by the mass shooting that took place over in Jacksonville, Florida today. Our thoughts are with you. Thoughts and prayers. I hate that, but our thoughts are with those family members and those people, and I hope that we don't have to keep doing this. I hope we don't have to keep having these conversations, but we just want to acknowledge that situation today. Also, earlier this week, as we know, the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, we lost her this week, and we here at the Trans Sister Radio Show also want to send prayers for her family and her friends and her fans. She was dearly loved, of course. And of course, lastly, the world grieves today over the loss of a great American. Now, listen, you could have not liked his policies. You could have not liked a lot of things about him. But one thing that you cannot say is that Mr. McCain was not a great American. McCain was a rare Washington figure who was liked and respected for who he was. It made him a popular figure nationally, seen by the public as a man above politics, but he was never quite popular enough to take the White House. Leaving him in the Senate with his bipartisan friendships, ironically, didn't serve him as well. Even Senator John McCain adversaries admired him. He's a man of integrity, Obama said once on an appearance on the Jay Leno show back in 2013. Joe Biden tweeted when he was diagnosed with cancer, "John and I have been friends for 40 years. He's gotten through so much difficulty with so much grace." And of course, McCain's best friend, Joe Lieberman, wasn't even a member of McCain's party when he rode around on the campaign trail with him back in 2008. His office released the statement Saturday evening that Senator John Sidney McCain III died at 4:28 p.m. on August 25th, 2018. With the senator when he passed was his wife Cindy and their family. And at his death, he had served the United States of America faithfully for more than 60 years. McCain died today at the age of 81 years old. He leaves behind a momentous and complex legacy of American politics. Today, we take a moment to transcend politics to remember this great American man. He is a great American man, and he will absolutely be missed for that. For who he was. Like I said, you didn't have to like some of his policies. You didn't like some of the things that he did. But as far as being an American, I respect his humanity more than anything. Now, for those of you who missed last week's episode, I am Tiara Latrice. Y'all can call me TT or Sis, whatever makes you comfortable. I basically started this show as a platform for people each week. I welcome you all into my home and into my heart. So welcome to my home and welcome to the show. Now, this is our second episode, as you all know. And in just a little bit, we're going to have an amazing panel of ladies joining us for this intense girl talk today, y'all. We've got some awesome ladies that are here with us on the show today. You've seen her on TMZ. You've seen her on World Star. You've seen her on Media Takeout and all over the place. She's an internet sensation, recording artist. She's a decorated rap artist who hails her as the greatest transsexual rapper alive. Lucy Karma will be here with us today. You guys were listening to her music earlier. Let's play radio. Hey, hey, hey. That song is hot. Now, next, of course, you can see her on Facebook Live. She's tackling all of the hard conversations with little filter and a big opinion. She is the girl that you love. I know I do. CEO of trans reality superstar Miss Makayla Soul is on the show tonight. No introduction is needed when it comes to the big tuna. Yes, 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 yes. Tonight, we missed her last week. She had some stuff to do, but she's here tonight. The condom lady herself, Mulan, the Rouge, Montrese Williams, is here with us tonight. So excited about that. Now, she's a woman of integrity and of excellence. She's one of Central Florida's only male to female trans elders. She also has held the position of the office of a pastor and assistant pastor over Judah Nation Ministries. Elder Savannah Bowens is here today. That's my sister, y'all. I'm so glad to have her perspective on this panel today. And finally, of course, she's successful. She's an entrepreneur. She's absolutely stunning and beautiful. The very beautiful Miss Barbie West will be joining us today as well. So we've got 5 amazing ladies on the show today that are going to make this a very, very awesome show. So you guys want to make sure you tune in. When I say this is going to be one hell of a show, it's going to be one hell of a show. And I just want to remind you guys that next week, we'll have the guys on. So guys, I have not forgotten about you guys at all. We actually have an awesome, awesome panel of 4 amazing trans guys who are not afraid to speak up and on who they are. That's right. Like I said, I've lined up a panel of awesome men who happen to be trans, and they'll be here with us next week. And then episode 3 will be a very special show. Episode 4 will be a very special show. It is the weekend of Black Girls Rock weekend on BET. You guys know Black Girls Rock. Every year they do it. It's an amazing event that they do to highlight Black women in the industry, and Black women, period. Doesn't necessarily have to be in the industry, but it's an awesome weekend. And so this weekend, at a very special time, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, instead of the normal 7 p.m., at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, come pregame with us right here on the Trans Sister Radio Show, because we are welcoming, wait for it, Miss Westland 2018. She's a former Miss Continental 2016. She's a multinational title holder. She's a footlight player at the world famous Parliament House. Y'all already know who I'm talking about. No introductions are needed, but yes, the breathtaking Miss Giselle Barbie Royale will be here with us not next week, the 9th. That's the second weekend in September. Giselle will be right here with us. We're going to have a very intimate interview with her, get to ask her some questions, and get to find out more about Miss Continental, Miss Westland, Miss Everything. She's amazing. She's beautiful. I love her. She's doing some great work around Central Florida, and we're going to get a chance to talk about and highlight that as well. So don't forget that September 9th at a special time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Giselle Barbie Royale will be right here on the Trans Sister Radio Show with me, withTiara Latrice. Now, let's say that again. Hey, for those of y'all coming in right now, we was jamming out to Lucy's hit. We was jamming out. Hey, let's do it again. Wait, where's she at? Oh, there she go.
We have a new artist called Lucinda Karma, codename Lucifer, aka Lucy. Dropping a new exclusive called Let's Play Radio. This shit is hot. This shit is motherfucking fire. Check it out.
That's hot, right, y'all? That's hot. Make sure y'all look her up. And when she comes on the show, we're going to find out some more information. We'll get some information for you guys on how you can find all of her music. She's got some hot hits. And I'm so excited that she's here today. That song is so hot to me. But we have come to the portion in the show. This is the segment that I like to call TT's Tease. That's right, you heard it. It's TT's Tease. And today on TT's Tease, we have a couple of really awesome stories, actually, that I'd like to share with you guys. Well, the first one, I think it's awesome because it happens so often. And rarely is there any justice that is done in situations like this. So I am excited to share this story with you guys because I don't get too often to talk about stuff like this. So a Long Island woman convicted of making false rape allegations against 2 college football players rolled her eyes in a Connecticut courtroom on Thursday as she was sentenced to 1 year in jail. Now, former Sacred Heart University student Nikki Jovino initially said she was raped by the 2 men in 2016, but later admitted that she did not tell the truth. Now, one of the guys said, "I went from being a college student to sitting at home being expelled with no way to clear my name." His name is Malik St. Lear. He said that in the Bridgeport courtroom on Tuesday as he stood next to his accuser. "I just hope she knows that she has what she's done to me. My life will never be the same. I did nothing wrong, but everything has been altered because of this." The other accused man was not in the court that day, but he did submit the following statement. "She accused me of what I believe to be a horrific crime out of her own selfish concerns," the unidentified student's statement read. "I lost my scholarship, my dream of continuing to play football, and now I am in debt $30,000, and I am simply trying to just get ahead." Now, both men said that they had sex with Jovina during an off-campus party. Both had sex with her on October 15th, 2016. And Jovina told cops that she did not consent to the sex that they had.
You know, she knows what she's done. The fact that my life will never be the same. Like, I have anxiety, I have like PTSD from this.
He said he has anxiety and PTSD. I'm going to play that again for you guys.
The fact that my life will never be the same. Like, I have anxiety, I have like PTSD from this.
He said he has PTSD from this experience, and I can only imagine. Now, she was sentenced to 3 years with 2 years suspended. So in all actuality, she'll probably only serve about 8 months with gain time. She fought the charge initially, but then she took a plea deal right before trial was scheduled to start. Both men are planning a lawsuit to sue her, which I think they absolutely should. But of course, I like to know what you all think. So what exactly do you guys think about this situation? Do you guys think that they should sue her? Do you think that a year is long enough for the way that she's possibly ruined these gentlemen's lives over nothing, over a lie? Do you think that folks, particularly white folks, need to start being held accountable for making false statements and wasting law enforcement resources? I mean, we can sit here and try to be politically correct all the time, but it doesn't take anything but a social media account of any kind to see that this is a huge problem. And it has been a problem for a very long time. The only difference is now there are cameras and people are recording it. People are catching these things happen. Well, we've been experiencing this very same things for many, many, many years. So what do you guys think? Do you think people need to be start being held accountable when they make false accusations or false phone calls to police officers and they waste enforcement resources, law enforcement resources? Let me know. Let me know how you feel about that. Drop the messages in the comments. We've got Robert back there answering all of your messages for you today. So make sure you drop your comments in the message. Drop your messages in the comments because I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about that. Now, the next story is about, I'm sure you guys have heard this story. I'm sure you guys have heard about Christine Hallquist. Christine Hallquist. Everybody's heard about her, right? You guys know exactly who she is. If you don't, she is actually, that's her right there. She's a Vermont candidate for governor. And she actually is the first out trans person to be a major party's nominee for governor. And of course, she's been receiving dozens of death threats, she says. Now, Holocaust, who recently made history by becoming the first out transgendered gubernatorial nominee of any major party in the U.S., is receiving death threats. Now, Ms. Holocaust, the Democrat nominee for Vermont governor, said Tuesday she's been getting a steady stream of death threats and other personal attacks since candidacy began to draw attention from across the country and the world. Early on, when our team assembled, she said, the more successful I became, the more vitriol and the more threats we were going to receive. And I guess she spoke that into existence because it's happening. She continued to say it's kind of the natural outcome of our divided country. Holocaust is the former CEO of the Vermont Electric Cooperative. She won the state's Democratic gubernatorial primary last week, and easily she was besting several other candidates. In November, she will face a Republican incumbent, Phil Scott. She has made some changes, she says, as a result of these threats, such as she's not giving advance notices of some of her public appearances, which is a very smart thing. She's not widely sharing the address of her campaign headquarters, which is a very, very smart thing. And she's also received about a dozen death threats via phone and social media. And she's reported them to the Vermont State Police Department, which is investigating that. So I'm going to keep up with that story. I just feel like being in that position and being who she is, sadly, that there are going to be a lot of people who have an issue with her simply because of who she is. And that bothers me. Obviously, it doesn't bother her because she's still moving forward. And I think it's such great strides that we're making here. I think it's excellent strides that we're making here. So, but we are going to start welcoming our guests on here. Let me get some information over to my husband so he can start getting the guests in here. Bear with me one moment, guys. Let's see. All right. Okay. I just sent it, babe. If you can just let them know that we're ready for them to start coming on. I'm so excited, guys. Our guests will be joining here shortly, and it's getting ready to go down up on the Trans Sister Radio Show. Like I said, we've got Lucinda Karma here. We've got Mulan Montrese here. We got Barbie Royale here. Barbie Royale, I'm so sorry. We've got Barbie West here today. Barbie Royale will be here, though. We've also got, I'm not sure if Samantha Stone was ever able to get up. She slept late last night. She wanted to be here with us so bad. I mean, she worked late last night, and she really did want to be with us so bad. Not exactly sure if she's going to be able to make it in, but if she doesn't make it, it's okay. We are going to have an amazing show anyways because we have some amazing people here. But like I said, just make sure you guys keep tuning in every Sunday at 7 p.m. at 7 p.m. and on the 9th at 5 p.m. when we're welcoming Giselle Barbie Royale, Miss Westland 2018, Miss Continental 2016, multi-title holder, Miss Giselle Barbie Royale will be here. And we're so super excited about that as well. I see a couple of my girls coming in. Super excited. Let's listen to some more Lucinda while we're waiting. I want to hear some more of her. Ladies, this is that fire. This is that fire, y'all. Wait, where did it go? Did I lose it? Hold on now. Hold on. It's okay.
Maybe you left the Facebook
tab. I'm trying to find it for y'all. I'm trying to find it because it's hot. It's hot. We were just listening to it. I don't know what I did with that. Huh? What you say, babe? I'm so glad I have him. Wait, baby, I think I might be. Baby, relax. Let me do that. Take a moment. Awesome. Thank you. See? It is awesome to have him around. I tell y'all what. I don't know what I would do without having him around most of the time. All right, so it looks like we're only waiting on Lucy to get here, and as soon as she gets here, we will get into some introductions. Where is?
Introducing
VS 69. We have a new artist called Lucinda Karma, codename Lucifer, aka Lucy. No exclusive called WithTiara Radio. This city, this city, check it out. Particular innocent children is allowed. You take everyone with melanin and exchange. You'll never be productive, you will citizens. Knowledge of the life of crime. Take all means of perpetuate segregated lives. The schools that are minority populated. Like a promise, losing the way to meditate. I pretend money don't really have it. Let's pretend I don't need millions to be the president. Let's forget about all the troubles and get away. Cause I got the keys, you got the keys. Check it, everybody has the keys to the city. Let's unlock every door, on every door. To make our precious, give us some more freedom, freedom.
Hey, listen, if y'all are watching right now, if you're one of the viewers right now, share this link. Share the link to this video before we get started in this conversation, because it's gonna be hot.
So come along with me and let the radio. Let's do the right thing and kill the radio. Let's pretend there is.
We're just waiting on Lucinda to come on in, and we are gonna get started. There's a separate chat for this that I have. Oh, she messaged me. Yes,
this is my life, I overprotected. Let's pretend I don't fight, let's pretend I ain't the truth, but I'm a fucking lie. Let's pretend 23.
So like I said, in just a little bit, we're gonna figure out where you can download this music. As soon as Lucinda gets here, we're gonna ask her.
Introducing Nikki Angel.
VS 69 exclusive.
Hey. All right, so we're gonna get started. Lucy is on her way. They're working on whatever technical issues she has, but I am so super excited to get started with this show. Hi, hello, ladies. Hi. So listen, guys, as I said, we have an incredible show today lined up for you guys. And I just want to introduce you guys, first of all, to our guests, to our panelists, and so you guys can get a moment to get to know them and get to know who they are and why they're here. So let's start off with, she really doesn't need an introduction. You know her, I know her, we all know her. She's Big Tuna, and we love her. She is Miss Mulan Montrese. The Rouge is here. Hey, Mulan, how you doing, baby?
How are you?
Hey. So listen, Mulan, I'm so excited that you're here. You know, we've been sisters for many years, and I'm so excited that you are here, and I'm excited to hear what you have to say. Tell us a little bit about you and like who you are, what you do.
Okay, my name is Mulan Montrese Williams. I work currently at the Miracle of Love. I do HIV testing. I pass out condoms at the local nightclubs, and I'm working on a few other things that you will be hearing about very soon.
Fantastic. Mulan, thanks again. I'm so excited that you're here.
I'm excited to be here. I have a good feeling this is going to be a great conversation with many beautiful other women.
Absolutely, absolutely. Next on the lineup, we have my sister. She actually officiated our wedding. We've done ministry together. I love her to death. She's a woman of integrity, of beauty, of smarts. She is absolutely, absolutely one of my favorite people in the world. She is Miss Savannah Bowens. Hey, sis.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. How are you, baby?
I am good. And
Good.
I love you.
I'm so glad you are here. I'm absolutely glad. Why don't you tell us a little bit about you? Tell us who Savannah is.
Well, everybody knows me as Pastor or Elder. I'm a worship pastor at my church, and currently I am kind of not being forced, but into advocacy for transgender women. I just released a documentary lately, just talking about different transgender issues. So I'm just excited to be on this journey.
Awesome. Fantastic. And I'm excited that you're here. I'm excited to hear about what you have to say and what you have going on. This is going to be a really good episode. Thank you so much for being here. Now, next is I am slowly falling more and more in love with this next woman every single day. She's a awesome, awesome advocate. She definitely speaks her mind. She does live videos. You guys have seen her on Facebook. She does live videos, and there's some serious, real topics, and she brings on other girls, and I love it. I love the fact that she's doing this. She is the CEO of an organization called Trans Superstars. Makayla, don't kill me. What is it?
It's Trans Reality Superstars.
Trans Reality Superstars. So, Makayla, of course, I'm so glad that you're here. Tell us a little bit about Trans Reality Superstars, and tell us a little bit about yourself as well.
Hi, everybody. I'm Makayla Saw. You can check me out on Facebook. Just Google Makayla Saw. You can Google my page. It's Trans Reality Superstars. My goal and my mission is to be the other side of transsexual or transgenderness that you normally don't see. We all see the beautiful, the pageant girls, the ballroom girls, the porn girls, nothing wrong with none of that. But some of us just choose to live everyday, regular, degular, normal lives, get up, go to work, chill with our husbands, so on and so forth. And I'm just trying to put a light to that we as transgender women and men are just normal, everyday people that's trying to do the best that we can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, so excited that you're here. So absolutely excited you're here. Babe, are we working on getting Lucinda in?
Send her the thing several times.
Can you message her and just let her know we're waiting on her here? It's like Lucy to be late. We all know that. We know Lucy gonna have to make her entrance. And that's okay. That is okay. Next, we definitely are so excited to have this next young lady on the show. I admire her. I look up to her. She's such an entrepreneur. She is a very successful businesswoman. I've never heard her involved in any drama or mess. Not to say that I've heard that from anyone else on the panel either, but I definitely specifically just know that this young lady keeps to herself. And so I'm really excited that she was willing to come on here and share with us some of her knowledge and her beauty and everything that she knows. So this is Miss Barbie West is on the show with us. Hey, Barbie.
Hi. How are you?
Fantastic. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. I'm so glad that you're here on the show. I'm sorry. No, I was saying I'm so glad that you are here on the show. And like I was asking all the other girls, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what you do?
My name is Yasmin, but I go by Barbie. I'm not sure how to explain myself. I'm just a regular, as Makayla explained. I went to college for clinical psychology and human services. So I've graduated from Argosy University with a degree in clinical psychology and human services. I currently work in the human services fields for one of the largest aeronautical space companies in the world. Uh, what else? I don't know.
That's awesome. So, and that's perfect. That's exactly what we wanted to know about you. We're so glad that you are here. I'm still trying to get Lucy in here, guys. She's having a difficult time getting in. Bear with me one moment. I'm just trying to.
Keeps calling me somehow on Hangouts.
Oh.
Am I supposed to like accept her or something?
Yeah.
What do we do? She keeps calling me too.
Oh, so if she's calling you guys and you can see it, yeah, try accepting it.
No, that'll bring it. That's an older call URL,
Oh.
babe. What's the newest call URL?
It's the last one, babe.
It's not.
That's the last one.
Said, and it's going all that.
Hold on. I'm going to send her an email. Tell her I'm sending her an email right now. I'm inviting her through an email. Oh, wait. That's not her. Sorry, guys. Just a minute, and we're going to get moving here. We're going to get moving. But while we're trying to work on this, while we're getting this, I want to tell you guys a little bit about the topics that we're going to talk about today. Some of the things that we are going to get into today. But first, I want to, and I hate to do a disclaimer because honestly, this show is about being real and being upfront and being us. But I do want to say that if you are easily triggered, this is probably not a show for you to watch. I don't think anyone here, including myself, is intentionally set out to trigger anyone on anything. However, this is a real conversation between real individuals who all have an opinion. So something someone says is someone is not going to like it. And that is perfectly fine. That's the great part about each one of us being individuals and being human beings, is that we can share our ideas, our opinions, and our experiences without having people condemn us for that. So I want to say with that every single thing that is said here on today's show is the opinion of the person that is speaking it and should be respected. You may not agree with it. I may not agree with it, but it still should be respected. Does that mean that we can't give our side of or a rebuttal to it? Not at all. But it does mean that we are here on the show. We're always going to respect each other. And I know I don't have that worry with the ladies that are on the panel, but I'm speaking to all of us, including those of you that'll be commenting and liking and sharing this. And even afterwards, just make sure that we're keeping everything cute. Okay, guys? Because we're all adults here, and I just wanted to make sure that we put that out there before we get into this, okay? Now, the topics that we're going to go over today I'm really excited about. First of all, we're going to talk a little bit about what is trans. I'll tell you for myself that I have lived in a box. I've lived in a bubble for a very long time. And I had an idea of what I thought a transgender person looked like. And for the longest time, I was miserable with myself because I felt like I did not fit what I thought a transgender person was. And that was part of my dysphoria that kept me isolated for a very, very long time. So I'm really excited to see and hear all of the ideas of what that looks like here today on the show. Also, we'll talk a little bit about post and pre-op transsexuals there. I know that there are some ladies that are not comfortable speaking with that. And again, I want to let the audience know as well that if there is something that a lady here decides to decline to speak about, that is perfectly fine. We will just move right on, because there are some things that some ladies do not choose to talk about, and we're okay with that as well. After that, of course, we got to get into trade. We got to get into trade and dating and chasers, a little bit of trans attractiveness, fetishes, all of that stuff. I want to talk about that. I want to know some of your stories and some of your experiences, and I want to also share with you guys some of mine as well. And then, of course, we're going to talk a little bit about gender reassignment surgery. Again, like I said, that is totally up to the panelists whether or not it's something that they want to touch on or not, but it will be an open discussion there. And then, of course, we got to talk about sex work. We've got to talk about sex work because I believe that there are so many misconceptions about sex work. And I think that there are a couple of us here on this show today that can actually put some light, excuse me, shed some light into those people that might ignorantly, not in a bad way, ignorant meaning you have no understanding, that those people that may not have an understanding can get a better understanding today. So that's absolutely something that we want to talk about as well. And then we'll finish off by talking about trans violence, violence against trans women of color, which is such an epidemic that we really, really need to figure out how we're going to stop this. It pisses me off. I'm sure it pisses every panelist we have here off every time it happens. We want to talk about why. We want to talk about how can we protect ourselves, those type of things. And then finally, of course, we know that whenever a trans woman is murdered, every time a trans woman is murdered, they're almost always misgendered in the media, even if they have their gender marker change and their name change. And I want to know why. I want to know what you guys think, why this is happening. And I also want to know, how can we change this narrative? Because it has to change. It's disrespectful to the deceased, who most of them have lost their lives too early in the first place. So that is what we're going to be talking about today. I'm super excited. I'm not sure where Lucinda is, but I'm just going to wait till she comes in. She'll come in whenever she comes in. But we'll get started, ladies. You guys ready to have a conversation? Yeah, awesome, fantastic. So let's start with Mulan. Let's start off with you. Okay, I want to ask you, what do you now I know that, well, let's start off with trans. What is trans? What is trans to you? Have you ever had the experience that I had, that at one point in time I thought I knew what that was, and then my whole
And
world
everything just changed.
Huh?
Good.
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, yeah. Like back in the day, I thought to be trans, you had to have breasts, you had to have face work, you had to have body, you had to live as a woman. Now, in this day and age, I see that it's totally different. So I have a new perspective on that. You know, I am one of the girls that used to judge, and that's only because that's the way I was taught. You know, I was called a man by my friends until I got breasts. You know,
absolutely.
So
we grew up in that time. We grew up in that time where the girls, the older girls, if you weren't on your moans and you weren't getting your work done, then you were just a boy in a dress, you know?
Right, exactly.
Absolutely. I understand exactly what you're saying. Hey, so Savannah, what do you have to say about that? What is trans to you?
So for me, I've come to learn what trans is through doing advocacy. And so with that being said, I jumped out there and I was like, ooh, I'm finna help my sisters and da, da, da. And baby, the trans community got me together. And literally, because there are so many forms of trans, you know, when you get down to talking about trans is such a wide, broad stream right now at this point. Like, not just trans men, but there are some people who consider themselves as trans, who don't consider dating male or female, who are just. So when I've come to learn it, I've come to learn that I don't know. I just feel like you can't put trans in a box anymore.
Absolutely.
There's so many there's just so much going on. So I just really just try to respect people in that arena just the way that I would want them to respect me.
Absolutely. And you're absolutely right. And the reality that I'm learning too is that it's always been that way. There's always not been a box that the transsexual or transgendered spectrum falls into. It's such a wide spectrum. But I guess because of, like Mulan was kind of hinting on, the environment that we grew up around, the people that you grew up around, those things help develop the way that you think and the way you see things. And until you open up and expand your horizons a little bit, we don't get a chance to see the other sides of things, And then that's when we realize, you know what, there's a huge, now I'm gonna get to Makayla and Barbie, and then I want to say something else on this as well. But Makayla, let's talk. Tell us, what do you think about what is trans?
To me, trans is a mental thing more than physical.
Absolutely.
And it's a spiritual thing. For me, trans, if you ooze feminine energy, I can recognize your transition. If your mind is of a female, of as a cisgender woman, I will recognize you as transgender. Maybe you haven't had the money yet to get your body changed or your gender marker changed or this, that, and the third. But I think before, first and foremost, before anything else, it's a mental thing.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And I say that quite often, Makayla, that it starts in the mind. If you are not transitioning for the right reasons, then it will play with your mind. And I'm sure all of us have seen that so many times before. So you're absolutely right. It definitely starts there, and it has to be who you are, and not for any other reason except for that it's who you are, you know? Now let's. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I also think, especially in 2018 with the Medicare situation, a lot of people can change their bodies really quickly. Even if you don't identify as trans, you can change your body really quickly. I think that's one of the reasons why the definition has changed, because I'm 36, about to be 37. And when I was a young girl, it was very hard to get, those physical changes accomplished. Not because it's not so hard. It's still hard, but it's not as hard to get those physical changes accomplished. I feel like a lot of people rush into it and they don't necessarily identify truly as a woman yet.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely. And absolutely. And that's going to go on kind of what I want to talk about too. But Barbie, let's ask you the same exact question. What is trans to you?
Well, that's pretty loaded question. In my opinion, I believe that trans is a physical, social, and emotional transition. Although, with the recent changes and different type of people that are being included in the trans umbrella, personally, I think to transition, it requires not only a physical transition, but a mental transition. That doesn't limit to physical, like breast implants or a sex change. It just has to be a physical difference between prior self to new self. I think that a lot of people run away with the trans word, which is kind of part of the problem why we are experiencing a lot of the things that we experience. Anybody can just call themselves trans, which I'm not against them being to as it, but there has to be some level of a standard, in my opinion. But
I absolutely agree. And that actually leads me right into what I was going to say. So I want to ask you ladies, and I don't know if this is rude to ask, or nowadays I don't know anymore, but what I want to say is, do you all feel that the fact that we are becoming so open with gender and sexuality, that it is causing more confusion or stigma than what is already there? Anybody can answer.
Absolutely. I feel like that in this day, you have to have a physical change for the government to recognize you as transgender. In certain states, you don't have to have anything done. You can get your gender marker changed. And I don't necessarily think I mean, it's a double-edged sword because some people just can't afford. But if you can afford to get your gender marker changed, you can afford to get on hormones. So it's a double-edged sword.
Agreed. Anybody else?
I personally think that the stigma already existed. It's just became more of the folklore. It's now something that's being micromanaged now. I think the stigma existed long before before the social media sensations and the viral sensations. I think that as Makayla said, it's not necessarily that you can't afford it or anything like that to become. Those are just legislative laws that were passed, but we the people get to make those decisions if we vote for it or not vote for it. So as part of have to get the community to rally in support of and your identity transition, it's not an easy thing, but it definitely can be done. The gay rights, the gay marriage rallied all the gay people, and the gay alliances rallied for them to be able to have the equal marriage rights. So I think when we have the people behind us as well, it could happen for us as well. So it's just a matter of time and patience and work, you know?
Absolutely. So I want to really quick. I want to get what you're saying, Mulan. I know you have something to say, and Savannah, I want to ask you too. But I do want to let you guys know that we finally got her here. Miss Lucinda Karma is with us. She made it. She made it. Hey, so Lucy, thank you so much for being on the show. I messaged you yesterday. I told you I was so excited that you were going to be here. But listen, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and a little bit about yourself? Lucy.
Can you hear me?
I hear you now. Yes, ma'am. I can't hear you now. There you. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, there you go. Did you hear what I said? Oh, sounds like she's having a little bit of technical issues, and that's okay. Well, why don't you go ahead and tell us what you were wanting to say? Hello.
I keep hearing a lot of static.
I'm sorry. You said what, hon?
I keep hearing like a lot of static.
Static.
Or is that just my phone?
It might be. Listen, ladies, make sure your mics are muted if you're not speaking. Lucinda, are you there? Lucy?
Nah.
Okay, there you are. Are you there? I see you tapping on it, but I just can't hear you when you speak, I guess. You want to go out and try to come back in again? Hey, babe, she says that she can't join. Tell her she's already in. She just needs to turn her camera on and her mic. All right, so, Mulan, is that better? Okay. Did you have something you wanted to say about that? As far as
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Barbie.
Yeah, move.
What the hell? When you move? So you mean everybody just saw me naked?
No, move. I'm going live. Like I'm about to be on camera.
You're about to go live.
Yeah, move.
Okay, can I get? Let me put something on to get on the covers or something.
Lucy, baby, your mic is on.
Oh, okay.
Aw. We were just answering the question. We were talking about.
I want to kill you.
I told you no.
Mm-hmm.
How the fuck?
Oh gosh. So Mulan, did you have something you wanted to add to that as far as the stigma?
No, I agree with what Barbie said.
Okay. Savannah, how about you? What do you think? Do you think that the openness of people identifying as transgender is causing more of a stigma, or making the stigma, as Barbie already said, making the stigma that already existed larger?
I don't think it's the openness. I think it's the misrepresentation.
Right.
And so, for example, one thing that we deal with here, back in Jacksonville, concerning transgender women, and the point of not skipping ahead, but misgendering them, is because you have some trans women who are just cross dressers who do it for money. You have some people who actually are trans women, and then you have others, just doing it for other reasons. We have, no disrespect to anyone. Um, I don't know the rules or guidelines on how to say this, but then we have others who are just drag queens. And so when we get to that and people understanding who we are, a lot of people when they mention across the board, they just think of drag queens. And that's because I've even had several conversations with trans men, and the reason they say that they really do is because they feel we're extra and over the top, or whatever the case may be. That it comes down to people can't really understand who we are because they don't really know who we are. The representation of trans women who's going to work and trying to live in society. I heard someone say about if you get markers in different states, there are whole different guidelines.
Savannah, you're breaking up. You're breaking up pretty bad, sweetheart. We can you're really choppy.
Oh, probably because I think I have my finger over the speaker. Can you hear me now?
That's much better. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No problem.
But no, I just think it's just I think that we have to begin to be trans women who are showing a positive light, and that's going to take time to begin to break those barriers down so that people can see that we're not just trans women aren't just streetwalkers or whatever society relates us to. We're professional women trying to make it in society.
Absolutely. I agree. Now, Lucy, what we were talking about was initially we were talking about what is trans to each one of us. And then once we discussed that, I posed the question, do you believe that the way that trans is being expressed today, or as open as we are becoming with utilizing the word transgendered and calling people transsexual and transgendered, do you think that is causing more of a stigma for us transgender women? Or
well, I was just having a talk with my friend about this the other day, and we were talking about how the word trans, it does provide somewhat of a stigma, and we got to be seen as humans first. Like, I'm all for being trans and being seen as transgender and transsexual because I do think it's important, but we got to be seen as humans first. And I think that's really the main problem we got going on. They want us. It's like the human part gets erased from us, and we just seen as the genitals and all of that shit. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Absolutely understand what you're saying, and that's a really good point too. Is that I think that, and Savannah touched on this a little bit, and this might make someone not necessarily here, but someone a little bit upset. But one thing that I found as well is that when you do have those girls that are, and mind you, when I was younger, Mulan can tell you I was this girl. When you have those girls that at nighttime she's Tiara, and then during the daytime she's Tony, and then you know what I mean, Mulan, you remember my days of that. So I get it, but what I feel like now that I'm older is that only I was not transgender to me because I wasn't living it full time. Eventually I came to be who I was, but at that time I think I was deceiving people and maybe possibly causing issues for other girls around me who really were like that, because someone sees me out with them and they associate me, and they're full time. They associate me with being friends with them, and then they see me out during the daytime at the bus stop, and I'm looking like Thomas with a fade. You know what I mean? Do y'all get what I'm saying? And so that I think that it leaves an impression, especially I'm from the hood. I was raised Paramore, that area here in Orlando. So especially in the hood, that's true. Anybody else have that experience or agree with that?
I agree with that, and I also feel like in this age of social media, a lot of girls use being trans as a way to get views, as a way to get clicks, and that's not who they are. They act very extra and put a spotlight on the not so positive aspects of being trans, being drug addicted or always arguing with people or always reading people down. And that seems to be what gets views and get clicks and stuff. But especially now on Facebook, now if you do anything positive and it's including trans, Facebook is gonna block you. Facebook is gonna put videos down. So it's kind of a double-edged sword because what's being fed to the general population is always something bad. It's always something negative. We're always fighting. We're always cursing each other out. But when we do try to put out positive things, the matrix of this world seems to not want that message out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can agree with that as well. I feel like there are definitely a lot more people that are wanting us to shut up than there is wanting us to speak up. And
well, I mean, it's going to be regardless. Let's put it in a different perspective. As a Black identified,
Barbie, you're getting you're choppy.
Should necessarily be in. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
You're breaking up a lot, Barbie.
I don't know why. You guys were breaking up too. It just might be the system. It might be too many people on at once. That a lot to me personally sounds excuses. And you were given the in and out. Well, that's part of the early stages of some people, especially in the time that you were in time and when you needed to make money, and so we're taking into consideration those aspects. The late way of identifying as drag queens are drag queens, and drag queens and transsexuals are definitely not the same thing. A can be a drag queen, and which is it doesn't.
Barbie, we're
if you live your life.
We're missing like 80% of what you're saying, and I really want to hear what you're saying. Is anybody else receiving it like that? Can you guys hear her, or is she choppy?
Yeah, she's very choppy on my end. Like, I can't understand. Like, I can hear one word and everything else is like static.
She's chopping up a lot over here too. She's chopping up a lot.
Yeah, it may be, I don't know, maybe your location in your home, Barbie. I don't know. Like, it seems like
I'm on Wi-Fi.
Oh, huh. Okay, let's try. I'm sorry. Go ahead and continue, Barbie. I apologize for that.
Okay, well, I just start over. I think that a lot of what I'm hearing sounds to me personally like excuses. I personally feel, for example, in reference to where you had to jump in and out, on the time that you were existing in that space, you can go out and get a job. Where in the early 90s, which I'm sure you're talking about, mid to late 90s, when you were just, which rights weren't really as defined as it is now in most places. Can you guys hear?
Yes.
Okay. Now, in regards to the identification, it's just a lazy way of identifying people. And it is problematic in a lot of ways, because a drag queen is a stage performer and not a transgender or transsexual person. A transsexual, transgender person, and like you may or may not, live your life as a woman and can still be a drag queen. People use the word drag queen as a way of diminishing the trans identity, making it more of a thing rather than than a realistic thing, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
Now, I think that a lot of people have experienced the in and out of getting in and out in the beginning stages because, again, you are still in your transition. You're still trying to figure things out. Sometimes you're going out, as yourself, and sometimes you may feel not so comfortable going out depending on where you live. You described living in the hood. Let's be honest, being a hood transgender person, unless you knew how to fight, it was choice for you to go out as a boy, in my opinion, because you were going to get jumped on or something, or harassed or whatever. It wasn't. It was if you really be okay out as who you were, then you would have done that.
I have to say I agree, and I also want to add to that as well that I think that my point with that was, if, like you said, that was back in the 90s, 92, 93, or 97, 98, back in the 90s. If I were still doing the in and out 20-something years later, then those are the girls that I'm talking about. Those are the situations that I'm talking about that, like they may just be a drag queen, but like to get up in yeesh and get the trade boys or whatever the case is. And they call themselves transgender, but when they go home tomorrow to become, to go to work, they become whomever they are. And that's been the story for 19 years. So to me, it would seem like there is no desire to live in your truth, but you are living in your truth. Does that make sense?
Well, yes, but that's what we understand is that their desire is not to in a person, but as a cross-dresser or a transvestite, if that's the more politically correct way of identifying that. That's a transvestite. Jumping in drags for trade is not living in your truth. That's just doing what you got to do to get the way the boy would like to see you.
Maybe that's the truth, though. It is possible that that's some people's truth. I've met girls that, and I mean, don't get me, like I said, I'm not here to judge anybody, but I've met some people that is their truth. Getting in drag to get the boys, that's their truth.
Truth is that. That's what I'm trying to decipher, is what kind of truth that sounds like more so of a gimmick rather than any truth. There's nothing to be dishonest about. That's just a gimmick. A gimmick is like any other gimmick. It's an illusion.
I absolutely agree. Lucy, Makayla, you guys have anything to say about it on this? I'm sorry, I think you guys are both trying to talk at the same time. Lucy, what were you saying? Lucy? Okay.
I feel like one of the biggest confusions to me with this new day and age is this whole trans umbrella. That they just want to put everything that puts on the wig and makeup and call them transgender. And I just think that is, that's, we as the girls, we try very hard to fight against. We try to get people to understand you use drag as a source of income, but a drag queen is a transgender person. And it's hard to get down those walls when people don't have no level for understanding, or people, it's just ignorance behind it. And I think that's good things about doing these lives and having these conversations, that we're slowly breaking down the walls of ignorance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. I'm so glad we touched on that. I just wanted to know what you guys' opinion about that was. Like I said, we all have an opinion, and that's okay. And like Barbie said, we all start somewhere. And it's true. I like I said, I admit that I was that. I in and out, in and out, in and out. And a lot of times it was, for me, it was so that I could go and work the beat and make a couple dollars or to get a piece of trade to begin with. And then I realized, you know what, this is really who you are, Tiara. And it was always who I was, but it took me a moment to realize it. So since we're talking, huh? What'd you say, love? Oh, okay. So since we're kind of on this subject, let's talk a little bit about dating trans, trade or chasers, tranny chasers versus like a trans attracted individual, someone who is actually attracted to trans individuals and want to date, get to know, and treat her as she should be treated. Let's talk a little bit about that. Makayla, tell me a little bit about your experience with trade and chasers and trans attracted. What's dating like for you?
A little bit controversial, but I'm going to say anyway. I feel like all men who eventually wind up as trans attractive start off as that chaser at first, because that's his. Especially nowadays, most men who learn about trans women, sadly, is via porn, Jerry Springer.
I'm sorry, Makayla, I can't hear you. I can't hear you now. It looks like for some reason this thing is just acting really, really silly.
Well, I'm going to try to hear me.
Give me 1 second. Mulan, will you mute your mic for me? Thank you, love. Okay, go ahead, Makayla.
I feel like most who enter into our community start off as trade or chasers. It's because that the way that they enter into our community, maybe they discover trans women via porn sites or via Jerry Springer or via, this, that, or the third. It takes a strong man like my husband who's watching the show to know what he truly wants in life and to know how to get it. I don't think there's nothing in particularly wrong with a man who's quote unquote a tranny chaser if you're dating these girls in pursuit of something other than sex. If your ending goal is just to fuck transgender women, then that's the issue, in my opinion.
Absolutely, absolutely. Mulan, what do you have to say about that? We're talking about trans chasers and chasers and trade versus a trans attracted individual and dating. What is it like being trans and dating?
Well, I really don't date. I'm to the point where I'm over it. That's just my personal opinion. From seeing the things I've seen in my past, it's just I'd rather not go through it. But as far as like the tranny chasers and stuff like that, I don't pay them any mind really, and I don't really kind of judge them because basically to me it's just like a man that's pursuing women. There are men out there that just like to have sex with women, not even trans. It's just the way it is. That's how I look at it. I don't put any thought into the tranny chaser and all that. I just feel like they're doing something that they want, and more power to them. Just leave me alone.
I hear that. And I hear that more and more often from our sisters is that like I'm done with the dating thing. And I get it. It's a rough it's rough. It really is a rough situation. And like Makayla was kind of saying, it's hard to distinguish, first of all.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
I just exactly do people expect? What do they think a tranny chaser is? If there was not people that were pursuing us, what would you call them? I mean, chase now, and that are going to be very adamant about just having a sexual trans women, and that to have more of a connection with trans women. But the whole idea of a trait of a kind of like is a stupid concept, because what do you expect them to do? Chase. That's what men do. They chase. They hunt.
Is that's how I feel too? I agree with you on that.
Right.
So,
and I've never honestly thought of it that way, but that's very true. What were you going to say?
I 100% agree with what you said, and I'm going to add to it that sometimes we trans women, we make dating harder on ourselves than it necessarily be. Absolutely. Because we put all these stigmas and we put all our own personal hurt and our own personal pain, and we project it upon the people that we are trying to get to know. It's just like a BBW. I'm a BBW type of girl who says she doesn't like a man who's into fat girls. Well, what do you expect? He likes big girls. Yeah, that's what he wants. So I think a lot of the times we girls put a lot of unnecessary pressures on ourselves from our own stigmas and our own dysphorias, and we place it upon the men instead of looking within ourselves to see, okay, why do I personally date this type of man all the time? Why every time I'm talking to an individual, he ends up doing this, that, and the third? We don't do enough self-reflecting in our community.
I agree with that. And I also want to say too that I've always said that we have to, our community, us girls, have to learn how to pick our battles. Because kind of what I think that's what you were just touching on a little bit, is that we do make things a lot harder sometimes, especially when it comes to dating, than it needs to be. And I get it. I get that there are people that are passionate about dating and not being fetishized and they want to be respected as women, and I get that. But I also understand what you and Barbie are saying as well, is that if they're not, we are trans women, and if they aren't pursuing us, then they're going to be pursuing cisgendered women. So technically they are chasing us, but that's just like Mulan said, it is just like a man that chases the girl down the street from him, it is the same situation. And I never really thought about that. So I thank you ladies so much for kind of opening my eyes to that idea of things. Like I said, I've lived in a bubble, guys, for a long time, and I'm starting to understand, which is one of the reasons why I started this show, is because I understand that I'm living in a bubble, or I have been living in a bubble, and I want to expand that a little bit. Barbie, did you have anything else you wanted to say about that before we move on? You there, Barbie?
Can I say one more thing then?
I have it on mute. Oh, I thought I had it on mute. But I just wanted to touch bases on the whole dating as a trans person. I think part of the problem that we have dating is that we have to stop making ourselves accessible for the late night sessions. You know what I'm saying? And demand to be treated as a humane person, as Lucy said, that we have to see ourselves, or they have to, and we have to see ourselves as human first. Now, part of the whole problem with dating is that they've been so used to and conditioned to treating us as if we are just the late night secret, or the girl they come and see, when they baby mama or they wives or whatever situation they got going on, and them are having problems. Now, you have to take into accountability that you also play a part in how you allow someone to treat you. With that being said, I'm not saying that dating is going to be easy 100%. I'm not saying that dating is going to be a piece of cake. It's not a piece of cake for cisgendered women. If you talk to any of your cisgender girlfriends, they can tell you the horrors and the stories of their dating experiences. I think that as a trans person, it's just kind of magnified because we are in our own world, and it's even smaller. With women, well, not women, let me rephrase that. With cisgendered women, there's a bigger pool of people that would openly identify them. For example, if you're dating a fat girl versus dating a skinny girl, not saying that there's anything wrong with fat people. I'm not fat shaming. What I'm saying is this. There was a time where people were ashamed to be dating fat girls publicly and openly, right? Until people, rap artists, music artists started fetishizing or making it something popular. You know, they like thick girls with big booties. They like healthy girls, you know, and people started less body shaming and more appreciating. And it became something that people wanted to do more often or people doing more publicly. What I'm trying to get at is that we have to stop allowing ourselves to be shamed and demand the respect and the treatment that we deserve.
Absolutely. Absolutely 100% right. I'm so glad that you said that because it was kind of what I was going to say too. Is that I think that what you allow is what is going to continue, and if we are wanting to, there are thoughts, we know it. There are cisgendered women who like sex just as much as we do, just as much as the next bit. Like there are women, cisgendered women who are like that, and they will open their door at midnight to whomever comes knocking on the door, the same way that a trans woman will. And I speak to both of those when I say that when that stops is when you start getting the respect. When you stop opening that door at midnight or 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning and then opening it 10 minutes later to let them out and you're not getting any money in your hand, then like I feel like at that point you have allowed that to continue, and what you allow is what will continue. Now please understand, I'm not saying nothing about, like, we all have trade. We all have our pieces of trade to come over, call them up, hey, pull up. You know, we all have, or well, y'all all have. Let me rephrase that. My husband's in the other room. Y'all all have that. But y'all, you know what I'm saying? Like, we all, girls have that. We all have that. So there's nothing wrong with that. But what I'm saying is if you like a guy and he's been coming to your house every night at 2 o'clock in the morning for the last year, you can't get him to take you to dinner, and you can't get him to be seen with you in public in the daytime, and he can't take you out to go shopping, but he'll go and buy something for you and bring it to you, then there is no potential for anything more than that, than what is happening, because that's what you allow to continue to happen. Do you ladies agree with that?
I also think that if we're going to be honest in this, trade, and what I consider is
Makayla, you're freezing up. Try that again for me, hon.
Hold on, let me try one. Can you hear me better now?
Much better, yeah.
I'm sorry. I also believe there's a certain portion of the community, a large portion of the community, that is what I call trade chasers. And what a trade chaser is somebody that purposely seek out the bad boy, or purposely seek out the thug, or purposely seek out a man with a baby mama, and they expect that man. They treat every man like he's a client. They treat every man like he's a date. And that's just something you cannot do if you want a relationship, if you want a husband. You have to get out of that condition that a lot of girls have been conditioned in, to get in the most masculine, the most DL type of man, because that validates your transition. Because if quote unquote fish wants him, then that means he's good enough because it validates my transition because fish wants him. And we have to get out of that mindset if you truly want to find happiness. There's a difference between companionship and happiness. It's something I completely discovered recently.
Absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. So since we're kind of in this area, let's talk a little bit about then distinguishing between, well, first of all, I want to ask y'all a question. You don't have to answer it, but you guys all, I think most of you guys know my story. For 6 years, I was a prostitute. I was a crackhead. I walked OBT. I walked 42nd Street. I walked Nashville. I walked the streets. I did the escorting thing. I've done it all. And sometimes it was for survival. Sometimes it was because I wanted a piece of trade, and if I could make a couple dollars, then I was going to. Sometimes it was just something to do. Most of the time, it was to feed my habit. If anything, what do you all know or have to say about sex work and the stigmas that are surrounding sex work? Mulan, do you want to start?
Hello, you can hear me?
Yes.
Well, I'll say for me, and I can only speak for myself, and let me first say, I get bashed a lot for speaking about my past with other trans women because they say that's not a good representation. But what you have to understand is I'm only representing myself. I'm not asked to represent everybody else. I only know my story. I only know why I went out there. Absolutely. And I don't let anyone belittle me for that. You know, I'm not embarrassed that I prostituted. You know, I lived my life. I came out healthy. I'm still here, you know, but everyone has a different story. As for me, I started street working when I was 19. I was raised by my grandmother. She died when I was 19. Didn't have anywhere to stay. Ended up staying with a girlfriend, and her grandmother. Her grandmother was only there at night, but you know, you can eat during the day. Them girls, they wasn't feeding me, honey. And I could not find a job for nothing in the world to save my life. So I'm gonna be honest, I started out tricking on Ivy Lane. And that was just to get food to eat. You know, fast forward it, you know, I tried to get a job after I transitioned. I tried to get several jobs. But the last straw for me was I tried to get a job at Land Bryant and I got the job. Oh my God, I was so happy. Getting ready to go in, getting dressed and everything, and then the boss lady tells me, "Oh, you can't come like that because you know when our clients come in, their husband might be with them, and we don't want them to think it's okay to wear our clothes." For me, that was my breaking point. And from there, I did sex work. That was my job. That was my way of surviving. And I just put in my mind, it's not what you do, it's how you do it, you know? And that's just, and I stayed. I could have got out long before I did, but I was comfortable. You know, some girls do it just to survive. I did it to survive. And I also, you know, I like nice things, you know? And for me, sex work was very prosperous. You know, I made my money and that made me happy. So that's just my story.
Absolutely. And I appreciate your candidness and I appreciate you sharing that story with us. And I relate on so many levels with everything that you said there. And I think that is one of the greatest stigmas that we have, especially in our own community, our own sisters.
Oh. And wait, one more thing. At one point, I did get a job. I did get a job as a trans woman. And I'm going to be honest, society can really break you if you're not strong enough. Now I'm strong enough. Back then I wasn't. You have to realize I'm 6'4". Right. I'm a big motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Just being real. I was just starting. You know, I've always been easy on the eye for as looks or everything. But you know, with society, I'm this tall over everyone. So when I started working, you know, I had to stop because I saw where it was going with being talked about behind my back, you know, being laughed at by some people, you know, and all I saw was red lights of me strangling someone. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So for me, sex work was comfortable. I was comfortable in my own world. I didn't have to deal with society of being judged, you know, being looked at, being pointed at, you know, in a work setting. So that's why I went back to it.
And Makayla, how about you? Do you have anything that you'd like to say on the subject, or do you have any experience?
For me, when I was younger, I've done sex work. I lived in Fort Lauderdale my whole life till recently. And in Fort Lauderdale, we have our stroll is called Six Trunk Boulevard. And if anybody from Fort Lauderdale knows, they know about Six Trunk Boulevard. And for me, it was two reasons. It was survival, yes. But I think now looking back at it, it was a way to validate my transition. Um, I'm still a big girl now, but back then I was damn near 400 pounds. And in the quote unquote gay community, I was, fat, feminine. Nobody wanted me. Nobody wanted to, check for me like that. So it was a way to, oh, look, bitch, I could pull this man. I could get this man. This man actually pays me because he want to fuck. And then in a weird, twisted way, it was validating who I was, because these men that none of these butch queens that I was hanging out with back at the day could even possibly think of getting up to me in the streets with, hey, Bolas, come here. It was a way of validating my transition. And it was a way of survival too. But it wasn't until I went through the situation I went through where I realized that it was such a dangerous thing. And then I kept having girlfriends being shot out there in the stroll. I kept having girlfriends being shot for, because maybe a man would see her in the daylight, right? And he'd be walking with his family. And because he knew what he was doing with her at night, he would react violently. And it's just something I had to get out of, because in a way it was, we all know in a way sex work is kind of fun if that's the life if you on your tees and all that other shit back there. It's kind of fun, but it's not sustainable. It's not a way to sustain a healthy life. It's not a way to progress forward. It's not a way to, you can't be a wife. You're not going to have a husband if you're a sex worker. Like, and that's what, in the end of the day, I just wanted to be a regular girl. Like, just a regular girl who worked, had a husband, who had her own place, and that just wasn't the key. You can make a lot of money, but all money isn't good money. All money comes with a price. And what price are you willing to pay?
I love what you just said, that all money has a price, and what price are you willing to pay? Because, like you said, that I think for most sex workers, and I also want to mention as well that sex worker does not just necessarily mean a girl that walks the streets or a girl that does work on the internet. Sex worker is also a porn star. Sex worker is also someone who does massages. Sex worker is a girl who just does platonic dating. Like, that's all sex working. So, like, I think that first of all, we have society has this idea that when you think of sex worker, it's a prostitute. As a matter of fact, he's a dear friend of mine, but he's just, he's still learning, and he's one of those blunt people. And the other day we were having a conversation on Facebook, and I had mentioned, about sex workers and how black sex workers have the right to be stood up, or that there needs to be someone that's standing up for black sex workers. And he said, sex worker, ha, 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 you mean prostitute. And I schooled him at that moment that a sex worker is not just a prostitute. It's not just somebody that's out on the street. And a prostitute doesn't, I hate the word prostitute, first of all. I absolutely hate that word with a utter passion. That's what the police called me, and that's why I hate it, because I can't stand the popo, but that's a whole nother situation. But, like, I don't like the word prostitution. I like sex worker, because that's exactly what it is. It's a job that happens to sell some sort of sex involved in it, but it's your choice to do that, because it's your body to do that. It's your choice to be able to do that or not. And I don't feel like there is anyone that should be able to tell someone that they can't use their body. We all know that prostitution is the oldest profession in the world. In Jesus's days. And if you don't believe in Jesus, then before that, there was prostitutes, Barbie, did you have something you wanted to say? What do you have to say?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to say that I support the hustle. I am not a prostitute, escort, sex worker, stripper, porn star, none of it. But I support the hustle like any other hustle. I feel as though that if it is a safe way of making money and you're protecting yourself and you're protecting your consumer, it's no different than any other transaction. Now, what makes it illegal is that the fact that they're not able to identify how much money you're making and how much money to tax you off of that. But personally, I think also I want to say that we have to stop trying to find nice ways of saying things. Prostitution is prostitution. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It is what it is. And we can dance, we can dress it up and put lipstick on it, but it's still going to be a pig, right? Now, there's nothing wrong, in my opinion, with prostitution when it is consenting, when there are consenting people making consenting decisions and making consenting choices. What I have a problem with is when we are introducing children or young ones into this lifestyle falsely, like as it's the golden ticket or the road to the golden heavens, and this is going to be the life, and this is what's going to get you everything that you need. No one ever tells anybody the real truth about what happens when you are out there. Some people are led to drugs, hard drugs. Some people are led to depression. Some people are led to suicide. Some people are out there and they just went out there for a means of survival and end up becoming stuck and paralyzed. It's like when I was younger, I started in a ballroom scene, and I never, oh my God, my eyes were opened up. Going from being this prep school kid and this, very well education, very safe home, um, I was introduced to a life that I had no idea that even existed. I'm talking about drugs, crimes, like, escorting, prostituting, all kinds of things that were existing in a world that I never knew until people started showing me things and doing things in front of me, and I was like, wow, like, oh, okay, all right, well, if that's what you want to do, I don't have a problem with it. If you are consenting and you're safe, as long as you're not putting anyone else in harm's way, then do what you have to do to survive. Like, we can't judge people for how they decide to live their life. We could only love them for who they are, personally.
Absolutely, absolutely, Barbie, and I appreciate what you said there too. I have noticed that, or I will say that, like on this show particularly, I find myself trying to be as PC or politically as correct as possible, because I don't want to offend anyone. However, sometimes it is calling an ace and a spade. Like it is what it is. So I absolutely agree with you on that 100%. Now, since we're talking about this, Mulan, I want to ask you a question, particularly Mulan, about, since what you do is you work with Miracle of Love, and you are their HIV/AIDS advocate, right? You go out into the city and you do prep. You let people know about PrEP and prevention, and as well as handing out condoms at the nightclub. And I know you do free testing at different events in different locations. First of all, that's awesome, and I'm so glad that you're doing that, and I'm so glad that we have trans women that are doing those things now and letting other trans girls know that it's okay to be tested. And if you are tested and you are positive, that's okay as well, because there are treatments and there are things that are available. And I know that's what you do. So because in this situation and in this panel, I would consider you to be the expert on this. Can you tell us a little bit more about how what you do correlates with what we're talking about with sex work? How can girls who are out there surviving in the as a sex worker or as a prostitute, how can they prevent themselves from becoming or just having any issues?
Use condoms. First, they're gonna have to respect themselves. It's not, like I said before, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. You know what I'm saying? At a young age, before I even started, I knew a transsexual that stayed in the same neighborhood as me. Her name was Candace. And she was just straight up about everything. She's like, "Oh, you're going to be a woman." She said, if you ever have to come out here, make sure you take care of yourself. She at the time was dying herself. You know what I'm saying? So she let me know it's not all what it looks like. Because I was infatuated with her, because I used to sit on my grandmother's porch, and before I even seen her, I would smell her, and I would know she was coming. And she had on her furs and everything. But so I lived for that glamour, whatever. But at a later time, with the IV connected to her, she broke it down for me. So what I tell the sex workers now, you have to first respect yourself. And again, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. I don't even know what nuts taste like. When I was doing it, I was one of the crazy ones. I'm not licking no balls, and I'm gonna be blunt. This is how I talk. Hope I don't offend anyone. You know, you're not. I'm not sucking you without a condom. I've turned down hundreds of dollars because I'm not gonna do it. You know what I'm saying? And my thing, I was scared at a young age. I had a friend. She broke out all up here. And I learned from that. You know what I'm saying? So it's just you have to protect yourself and you have to first love yourself. That's the most important, because if you don't love yourself, if a man offers you 50 or 100, you're going to do what they want you to do. Me, myself, I turned, baby, no, I'm not doing that. That was me. So, I tell that to the girls and I let them know sometimes you have to tell them no. That makes them want to come back. You know what I mean? You don't seem so easy. You have respect for yourself. But I just tell them to be safe. And I also, now I'm trying to make all of them get tested so that if they are, they can get the proper help that they need. If they're not, they need to get on prep, period. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. That's what I'm trying to do now, and I focus on the sex workers personally. I go out there with them. I go talk to them, give them some bottled water, take them some condoms, and open my doors to them, let them know they can come get tested at any time. If they just want to talk, they could just come talk. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I remember when I was out, one time I was out on the beat, when you were talking, it just hit me that one time I was out on the beat and this guy pulls over down the street with his mother, and his mother and him get out of the car, and you can tell that he's had work done, and he begins to tell me a story about how, he used to be out there, but he decided that it wasn't for him. And it was never, what I remember the most about that encounter was the fact that he wasn't condemning. He literally, like you said, he handed me a bottle of water and he handed me some condoms. And he said, if you're going to be out here, if you have to be out here, be protected. And that left an impact on me for a very long time. So what you're doing, Mulan, just know that it is definitely changing the world. And it's starting right here in Orlando, and it's starting with you in that red van giving those tests and at Walgreens and at CVS. And it's starting with that. Just know that, sis.
Thank you. It means a lot.
Absolutely. And I think it's so important. Barbie, did you have anything else to say? Makayla, did you guys have anything else to say on that?
I want to thank her personally for doing the job that somebody has to do. Personally, I think that we need to see more people like ourselves out there advocating for us. I think a lot of the programs are geared towards gay men and gay and bisexual men, quote unquote. And there a lot of trans girls don't know that there are resources available to them, and that they should probably take advantage of. I mean, it's a lot of girls who probably are walking around, young girls who don't know their HIV status or don't know if they have any STIs or anything of that nature, or how to even go about getting the proper treatments for if they are infected or affected by a disease. And I think people like her who are very popular, I remember her when I was younger. When I was a younger kid, I think I was like 15 or 13, and remember going out to PH and seeing her and Tasha Long and all of them doing shows and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, she like she said, she's a tall girl. So I was like, oh bitch, like if she can do it, I can do it. Like, and I'm only 5'9". So I mean, I thought I was pretty tall, but when I seen her, I was like, okay, she's an Amazon, like she's really pretty. So I'm glad to see where she's at today. I'm very proud of her progress and where she's came from, because I've seen her, like she said, on a stroll. I haven't been out there, but my girlfriends, my sisters, they've all been out there. And I just used to wonder why, like, not just why her, but why is anybody out there? Like, why, what's the reason for people to be out there? I didn't even understand that it was really truly about survival, because I grew up in an era where you know, I had an opportunity to go to school. I had an opportunity to get a job as myself. And, you know, and I think that we take that for granted, that we have the privileges and luxuries that they did not. So I want to, again, pay homage to her and say thank you and,
Oh,
you
thank
know, give
you.
her graces and her flowers and just wish her well on her continued success.
Thank you so much. And let me just touch on how I got the job. And this is going to take back to Sasha Gardner, who was just killed. Um, Miracle of Love reached out to me to have a group at my home. And during the group, everyone was just talking and they were like teaching us stuff or whatever and talking about getting tested. And Sasha, you know, she was a firecracker and she was like, well, I don't want y'all testing me. Y'all need to let her test me. Y'all need to show her how to test because, you know, they trusted me or whatever. And I just want to say that's how I got the job because of Sasha. You know, 2 weeks later, they were calling me telling me I had class. You know,
Awesome.
yeah.
That's awesome.
That is
Yeah.
very awesome. I
Yeah,
saw.
it like fell in my lap, and my first class, it's like a passion just popped in me. You know, it's crazy.
I love to hear that, and it's amazing what we, how much passion we have in something that we probably didn't even know we had until you start
Right.
doing it, you know, and then you're
Yeah,
like,
that's why I went to school. That's what I went to school initially for. I went to school to become an advocate, not a advocate like how you guys are advocating, but on a medical perspective. At the time, there were not people that were medically transitioning, and honestly, I started my transition 17 years ago, and I started with the black market moans and getting hormones from the internet. Like there was, you know, I ain't gonna say the name, but in house, you know, yeah, you know, that place
yeah,
and a few other places where you could just, you know, use a credit card or your debit card or whatever and get your hormones. And it wasn't until like 2 or 3 years ago when I went to the doctor and I, you know, having a job and getting insurance because I didn't know the importance at that time of having insurance. I was just like, fuck that. I'm not giving them any more of my money. Like the tax is already enough. Like I'm not going to give them more. But I realized there was a need for me to make sure that I was okay because I realized that you could actually die. And when the first time I went to the doctor, I was shaking so hard, like terrified that they were going to tell me something was wrong with me because I was self-medicating for so long and by the grace of God, you know, I was okay. Like they were like, wow, you've been taking hormones for 17 years and you haven't got any blood clots or anything like that. I was like, well, I was kind of safe. You know, there was times where I felt like things were a little bit crazy when I was overdosing, but that was only because I thought that I had to do that to get more fishy. You know, I was around a bunch of beautiful girls, so I try to overcompensate it by over medicating. And I want to just say this. I think it's really important that we make sure we tell the girls to go and get treated medically by a professional.
absolutely.
Don't do the black market moans, not unless you absolutely have to, or you have someone that is very well versed in medicine, and even then, you're taking a chance. But it's important because there's a lot of things that could happen to you secondary. You know, taking hormones illegally. You can get blood clots, you can get a heart attack, you can get cancer, you know, a lot of those things that people don't talk about. As well as mentally, you know, it could drive you clinically insane. You know, when you're taking hormones, it's affecting the chemical neurons in the brain, which also makes you more emotional, more susceptible to depression, anxiety, you know, amongst hot flashes. God knows we all have had hot flashes that we just wanted to take our clothes off and sit in front of the AC, like, you know. But I wanted to get into this field from the medical perspective because I wanted to be able to help the young trans and older trans people be able to get treated medically and also be able to identify with someone that they see themselves as, you know?
Absolutely. And I just want to acknowledge some of the comments of some of the people that have been watching. I'm just now seeing these guys, so I do apologize. But Danny Iman says, hey, ladies. Hi, Danny. James Speed, of course, says that he loves everything trans. That's Miss Makayla's husband. And then Britton Ingram says, that part, Mulan. I'm not exactly sure which part he's talking about, but that one's for you, Mulan. So I didn't realize that the time, and I don't want to hold you guys for very much longer, but I'm really enjoying this conversation. And I just have another couple questions that I do want to touch on before we get ready to leave here. I want to ask you ladies, so, okay, let's talk about transgendered women of color particularly, and the violence that we are faced with on a daily basis. You guys, I know you guys know the stories. I know you guys have heard it. Mulan, I know personally you have encountered twice having to be very close to situations like that. And so I want to know, first of all, I want to know, why do you guys think this is happening? And I'm sure it would be pretty obvious to us that are in this panel, but for the people that are watching that might not know why do you all think this is happening? And then how can people like ourselves, whether you are a prostitute or a sex worker or just an everyday girl going to the store and getting shot 10 times in the front of the store, how can we protect ourselves from
kill them? Kill them before they kill us. I'm just kidding. No, but I mean,
I think that you should get a gun, carry a concealed weapon, kind of protection, because honestly, you when you allow yourself to be a victim, in most cases it's not really a choice, but if you are able to defend yourself, at least you have some chance of not being so much of a victim, because you have a fighting chance. Now, I'm not saying that everybody can have a gun or everybody's able to have a gun, never not knowing your background or what you have going on, but I think part of the protection is being vigilant. I think sometimes we just tunnel vision, where I know me personally, when I'm in a store, I'm trying to get to where I'm trying to get to. I'm not trying to pay any boys. I don't even want you saying hello. They're like, hey, ma'am, you smell so nice. You look so pretty. I'm like, thank you. And I'm out of there. I don't want to hold no conversation with you, because now I feel like I have to tell you my tea. I go to therapy, just that you know. I go to therapy for my own personal well-being. And one of the things that I talk to my therapist about is, when is the right time to disclose your situation? He said, well, why should you? I said, well, I just feel like, I don't want no problems. So if I let them know up front, he's like, but do cisgendered women have to disclose that they're cisgendered? I said, not really. He said, then exactly. Why do you feel like you have to, unless you are planning on being intimate with this person, why do you have to? And I said, so what I can do is just avoid them, right? He was like, no, you live your life like any other person would. Don't live it in fear, but be aware and be vigilant of the things that could happen. You could walk out the door and get hit by a bus, just the same way you can walk out your door and get shot up by the trade, because they don't understand why you decide to live as who you are, right? My only advice would be is to protect yourself, because that's the number one thing. You got to always protect yourself, your property, and be vigilant. Pay attention. Don't have your head down. Pay attention to the people that are around you. Watch, your door. Watch people walking behind you. Just pay attention. And it won't stop everybody from getting killed that may be murdered or whatnot, but it would definitely make people know that, hey, we're not gonna be a victim anymore. We're not gonna allow you to put that much fear in our lives that we won't live our lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mulan and Makayla, you both seem like you had something to say. Makayla, let's go with you next.
I just feel like, because I watched your show, I don't know if it was last week or a couple of weeks ago, when you had the sheriff who was running for office.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that a lot of the times the police misgender us is because they don't know what's going on. And I just think that's total and complete BS. What's going on with the police, in my opinion, is they do it as a form of entertainment or as a form of not doing their jobs. They know if they were used the proper terminology or the proper things, investigations would move quicker. But when they automatically say a man was found in the streets and she doesn't live her life as a man, then that automatically creates a disconnect. That automatically creates people not having understanding for the situation she's going through. And I think it's a very systematic, planned strategy in order for them not to solve our cases. Because if we notice the young lady in Detroit who was shot, she survived, I think. She was in a gas station and a man approached her and she told him the truth. She was trans, and he went and got in the car and shot her. But because they did not misgender her in Detroit, they actively searched her because she was alive. I guess that's another reason why. But because they didn't do it, they was able to solve the case rather quickly and within a couple of days, actually. But I think it's a
well, I think that has a lot to do with the fact that they had cameras too.
Correct.
So, also, I think that the way police misgender trans folks is a way of shaming them.
Correct.
They very well know what you are. They choose not to identify you in the way you chose to present yourself. That has nothing to do with them solving their case. That's their job. Now, what their personal feelings are may be reflective in how they decide to present it to the media, and that may just be the way it's coming off, that they don't really see you as a woman and they see you as a man dressed up, and that's the way they're going to identify you because that's just how their machismo, you know, mentality is. They believe that you are a man dressed up, you know, and that's why they say the things that they say and they present it to the media the way they present it to the media, because it doesn't take a rocket scientist to say, hey, this is a transgendered woman, especially if they see that the person has breasts.
Right.
You know, how would you know that she had, you know, her male anatomy unless you looked under her skirt? Like, I think at some point it's not about solving a case, it's about shaming the individual, which is in most cases what they have done. Instead of them speaking light into their life, they only bring up their background, that, oh, she was a prostitute, oh, she was on drugs, oh, she got arrested for this, oh, she did that, oh, she did it. But they never really talk about her being a victim of a senseless crime. But what they're trying to do is desensitize people's perception of this individual as a human being, and you want to make them something that they would be like, oh, well, they were dressed up as a woman, they trying to trick men, and they deserved it, and that's why they got what they got, because they were out there tricking people. You know, that's not even the case. They were out there trying to survive. But if they tell it that way, it makes it seem too humane. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to see us as a human. They want to see us as a freak, a nature, someone who is out here perpetuating, you know, the idea of this female body or female identity that really isn't. Instead of just saying, okay, she's a trans woman and she was out here surviving or making her ends meet, and she became a victim of circumstance, and that's how she died.
Right, but to them they have to say a man in a wig was found dead.
Right.
Right. To shame her. To shame her family, and to cause shock value. It's a shock value. The media reports certain things the way they report it, in ways to create pandemonium and shock. You know what I'm saying? What's going to grab the story? Trans woman murdered last night on OBT, or man dressed up in a wig was found dead under a tree near OBT. People gonna be like, oh, bitch, did you hear about that man that was killed? That was dressed up as a woman? You know, it's about shock value. What's gonna pull the audience in, because they don't care about if they were said or transgendered. Most people, honestly, that don't really care for us won't even have an opinion. They're like, oh well, whatever. But they say man dressed up as a woman. Now you create the idea that there was some kind of trickery or reason why this person deserved to have died.
Right.
Absolutely. I want to say, when we did the vigil for Sasha, we walked around the neighborhood and we handed out flyers and stuff, and that was something that I got a couple of times during that. They were like, at one point in time, one of the girls was like, oh, well, we thought that was a man. we were like, you know, this young lady was murdered back here and we're trying to find some information. Oh, well, we were told it was a man. And then one of their neighbors was like, oh, yeah, that was a dude. That was a dude, but he had on girls' clothes. And we were able to correct him and be like, no, she was a transgender woman. But you're absolutely right, Barbie. That came from that media, that the way the media initially said that. And when Daryl was on the show, Mr. Shepard was on the show last week, I asked him, I said, you know, if you did become sheriff, how would you change that narrative? And like Makayla was saying, he kept saying that he thinks that a lot of times it's not intentional. And of course, that was the political thing for him to say. That was he's running for office. But the reality of the matter is, like I mentioned to him, I call bullshit. And
yes,
the reason
it is intentional. Why else would you say it? Why else would you identify someone in the way that you identify them? When you let's put it in a different perspective for the viewers that are not trans identified, right? How many black men and black boys have been murdered in the past few years? And the first thing that they did was victimize the victim. They basically turned him into a criminal.
Right.
Oh, he was running from the police. He looked like he had a gun. And what you find out in the end, the person did not have a gun. The person did not have a background. The person did not do anything that would warrant them to be considered a deviant to society, but yet because they are a black identified body and the police fear them so much, they would rather make them a villain than to personify them in the way that they actually live their life as a civilized individual. The same way with trans folks. People don't want to identify us as civilized people. That is the reason why they explain and identify us to the media the way they do. It doesn't take common sense and it does not take truth for you to be able to say that this person lived their life as a woman. This was a trans-identified woman that was murdered because XYZ, or we don't have the reason why she was murdered, but to blatantly disrespect the deceased and identify them in a way where it becomes a mockery, it's problematic on many fronts, because now you are creating an embarrassment around this individual's death and making people not care about how this person died and why this person died, because the only thing that they can focus on is that this person somehow was pretending to be something that they are not, and that's why they ended up where they ended up.
And that's exactly why we get the comments and we get the people that say stuff like, oh, well, hey, as a matter of fact, one of the first comments that I read, and one of the reasons why I got so pissed off and immediately started calling news media sources, and I reached out to Mulan and was like, but the reason why I did that was because one of the first comments I read when Sasha passed away not too long ago, when she was murdered not too long ago, was a guy who said, well, if she wasn't out there trying to trick men, then this wouldn't have happened. And that did something inside of me that made me so furious. And it was, like you're saying, Barbie, it was only because the media had made this girl out to be this freak in a dress that was behind some building.
And right. And what pissed me off so bad about it, I told you already that they came to my door before anything was released. Let me tell y'all, they came to my door. The first thing they said was, I heard a bunch of transvestites stay here. Baby, I had to sling my door open so hard. Baby, do you see me, darling? I'm not no transvestite, darling. And no, I'm the only one that stays here. I don't know how you heard that. But they had to show me a picture of Sasha. And in that picture, she was dead. That kind of messed me up a little bit. But I told them specifically that she was a transgender woman. So them saying that they didn't know that is a bunch of bullshit. Straight up, no filter, no nothing. That's a bunch of bullshit. They know. One of the officers acting like he couldn't even say transgender. He was like, so trans, and then the guy that was with him finished it for him with transgender. He acted like he couldn't even say it, like it just couldn't come out his mouth. Right. That's why I have no respect for the sheriff department right now. None at all. None.
And it's like they choose to be ignorant. It's one thing to be ignorant, right? Because you just don't know. And it's a whole nother thing to be willfully ignorant when you know and you just choose not to acknowledge or respect an individual because you have your own personal feelings. Now, I may not be a Christian, but it doesn't mean that just because I'm not a Christian that I can't respect you for your beliefs. That's your beliefs.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I find that and Barbie touched on this too, and I said it to Daryl as well, is that especially in a situation where a girl's been moaning or a girl, and I know that Mulan kind of quickly made it clear to all of us that Sasha had little titties. You know, she was a full-time girl. There was no way you did not know that she was a trans girl, you know? Like, those things were known. And I know if she told us, she told them that as well. And she didn't even have to tell them because, like Barbie says, how did you know that she was a boy unless you knew what her anatomy was? How did you know she was a trans girl unless you knew what her anatomy was? So don't give me that, until the autopsy, because that's what Daryl said last week, is that, until the autopsy, a lot of times they don't know. That's not true at all. That's not true whatsoever. And the fact that, I also say this as well. If that was a cisgender woman that was found behind a building dead, they're not going to say that she was wearing a party dress and a lace front when they announce her on the news.
And I also want to say that we need to leave some kind of documentation of how we want to be presented, because I know for me, I had a good girlfriend who was shot, doing sex work, and it took me to really go to her family and like, look, this was a girl, but they still chose to bury her. They had her in a wig and a lace front, but in boy clothes. Like, and sometimes our family, when we're not here to defend ourselves, they gonna go back to what they know or what they're used to or what they want us to be. And sometimes that can also create a lot of the confusion when they're not listening to us, their friends. They're listening to her mom, and if her mom is calling her he, her son, identifying them as, their dead names, it's kind of an uphill battle. So sometimes we need to leave some kind of documentation of how we live our lives, how we present ourselves. And we need to put that out there to people, because we can't always rely on our families to tell our complete stories.
And that's a really good point, Makayla. You're very right on that, because that was one of the things that we experienced with Sasha. And I respect Sharon. Miss Sharon is a very sweet woman. That's Sasha's mother. And I would never disrespect her by saying, hey, listen, you can't be calling, we're trying to fight for her down here. You can't be calling her your son. That's your son. If that's your son, that's your son. If my mom was still alive today and she wanted to call me by my dead name, I would be completely okay with that, because that's my mama. Like I would probably get aggravated like we all would, but I'm okay. Now that's just me. But I was not willing to argue with her mother or try to change her mother's mind about the way she addressed her child. However, it did cause an issue, because here we were being so loud about the fact that she was misgendered in the news. And then here we are, we released, and I was the first one that shared it, and I didn't read it, and that was a big mistake. But I shared her mother's GoFundMe, and that's when I got my inbox blew up, and people were like, have you read this? Like, have you seen this? And so I went to go read it, and I was like, oh crap. But again, at the time for me, the concern was that her mom was trying to get her child home. Like she needed to get her child there, and she needed help to get her child there. So let's worry about why her mom called her whatever her mom called her later on. Let's get them what they need now in order for her to be able to bury her child, the proper way. But I absolutely agree 100%. And Daryl had a kind of a good solution, but I don't think that there are many girls that would be okay with it. But he was saying to carry on your persons, like Makayla was just saying, something that says, hey, my name is blah, 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 blah. I identify as blah, 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 blah. This is who I am. But I know that dysphoria-wise, there are a lot of girls who would not want to walk around with something like that on their persons.
You may not.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
You may not want to do it, but at the end of the day, if something was to happen to you, and let's not even put it as so traumatic, car accident, and people may not know how to find you, and then let's say all your friends call you this, that, and the third, but you don't have your gender marker change or your legal name change. It's going to be very hard when they go to your family and then they asking for Larry, and you don't have nothing, nothing, no Larry is nowhere near you. Like, we have to take control over our narratives, even in death.
I like that. I like that. It's a good point. And like, I personally would not have a problem.
I mean, I personally wouldn't walk around with that. Not because of anything specifically, but I have my legal documents and everything already the way they need to be. So I identify as female. I am female physically. So I'm not going to have to disclose that because everything is in order. But for the people who have not had their gender marker or sex change or any of that stuff done, then yeah, it would be beneficial to you in the event that something did happen to you, that you are able to have some kind of identification or paperwork on you that would be able to allow the law to be able to identify you the proper way. So yeah, it has this, and I get the dysphoria part of it, but the reality is that we can't control what happens after death. So if much work as we can do prior to that, that would be beneficial. And the way we are looked at in the end would be probably the most, the best solution, the most positive solution, I would think. But I mean, get your paperwork in order. There's a lot of places that help with getting name changes, depending on where your state is at. It may not be as easy as possible. I worked with a lot of girls. I'm part of a sorority group called Girls United, and I'm also part of another group that I have helped lots of trans girls get their documentation. I've given them the resources. I've given them everything that they could get done for free. I provided them with all of the information that they needed to know on how to get their identification, sex changes, whatever they needed or wanted done in a way where it was either free or in a way you can manage to get it done possibly. But, you know, unless there's some kind of restrictions, like you're a felon and you can't get your name changed, I wouldn't see why it would not be a better solution to just get your name and your identification up to date with the way you live your life.
And I have to say that even that needs a lot of attention as well. The hoops that transgender individuals have to jump, or that people have to jump through, but particularly transgender individuals have to jump through in order to get a name change is a little bit much and needs to be updated. Because I know that I've experienced, and this is personally me as well, but I've experienced many girls who, in the state of Florida, in Orlando particularly, if you get 3 of a charge of any type, it becomes a felony. Whether if it's 3 misdemeanors, you get 3 of those, it becomes a felony. A lot of times what a lot of these girls, what's happening is when a cop finds you on the beat and they arrest you on the beat, the goal of the goal of the police on the beat at that time is every time they see you, they're coming after you. Every time they're trying to get you that felony. So every time they see you, they're arresting you for something. So before you know it, you've got 3 of them. Now you've got a felony on your record and you'll never get your name changed because it's almost, now I know that there are programs, especially here in Orlando, there are a lot of programs that are working diligently to change that. But as of right now, it's a very difficult thing to do. So I think for like the sex workers, the girls who end up dead behind the building, those girls are the girls that matter the most, can't get those type of, they can't get their names changed. They can't get, I shouldn't say those are the girls that matter the most. Let me rephrase that. Those are the girls that matter the most when it comes to what we're speaking about at this moment. Like, so I think that they have to, I think that it is important maybe to start doing that. If you're a working girl, if you're out on the beat, then maybe you should start carrying something on you, identifying you as who you are, just in case. The saddest part to me, ladies, is that we even have to be having this conversation at all. That's the saddest part to me, is that it's great that we are having the conversation, but it's sad to me that we have to plan, or we have to encourage girls that are out there doing what they have to do to survive. We have to encourage them to identify themselves in case something happens.
Well, I mean, let's put it in this perspective. As a Black identified person, and if I have kids, not biological, but I have my godchildren and gay kids, and they're young Black men, and like their biological parent, I have to tell them every day about making sure that if they get pulled over, they have to present themselves in a way where it's not hostile. It's no different. You know, we have to teach our kids, and we have to teach the people that we love the most that there are things that we're going to have to do. We may not like it, but there are things that we have to do in order for us to be identified in a way that we need to be respected. Because at the end of the day, they're not doing it, and they're not going to do it. And whatever reason and whatever feelings they have about you being who you are, it interferes with how they treat you in your death. So listen, if you have to walk around with a piece of paper saying that, hey, I'm transgender, my name is Lucy, you know, Santiago, and I go by her, she, you know, whatever pronouns, that's just what you have to do. Because at the end of the day, we have to figure out how to get them to stop making you a mockery, as well as, because it's only so much that we can do here on the outside fighting for you, but when it's done, it's done. You know what I'm saying? We can't take back what they've already published. You know what I'm saying? They can revise it, but it's already aired. They already called you a man.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
I like to say this, not workers, because as we see recently, there's a lot of girls who's being attacked just on dating sites, and it has nothing to do with sex work. Mm-hmm. So it's about living your lives. As Barbie said, the goal should be to try to get these legal things changed, but some girls, for whatever reason, don't do it, can't do it, won't do it for whatever reason. They feel like it's disrespectful to their whatever the case may be. You need to protect yourself even in death, in no matter what the situation is. That's what insurance is for. And this is a form of insurance. You need to ensure that your legacy is intact.
Absolutely. And Mulan, I know you were joking earlier, but I honestly have to say that I'm not opposed to the like kill or be killed mentality.
Oh, because that's what I'm gonna do. You know that
right?
Yeah, I mean, oh yeah.
But that's how we all live our life. That's how I live my life. I'm gonna take you out before you take me out.
I am going to take
I agree.
You out, and I might start it if you even look at me crazy. If I think it's coming, I might start.
Right.
That's where I'm at now, because I'm not going to let anyone disrespect me. I don't care how you feel, what you see, what you think you see, what you think you know. You're going to respect me.
Right.
And you're not going to hit me, touch me, rob me, nothing.
Right. Absolutely.
Respect me.
Respect. You're going to respect. Put some respect on our... So listen, so we pretty much touched on everything, and I want to let you ladies go, and I really appreciate you guys taking the time to be here. And this video is going to, it's going to be posted on YouTube, so people will be able to watch this for years to come. And I think that this is going to be a great educational tool for people who may not know anything about the things that we're talking about here. Having it from 4 beautiful Black trans women is such a powerful thing to me. So I'm really, really grateful about that. But before we go, I want to say, if you guys could say anything to a girl that is new in her transition, and I say a girl, not just, we know that there are other people transitioning, and next week I had the guys on, and later on down the road, I'm going to get into some of the other spectrums as well. But as of right now, we're talking about, girls like us. So if you had something to tell a girl that was new in transition about transitioning or hormones or just living their life, what would be one line that you would tell them? Mulan, let's start with you.
Take your time. Go to the doctor to get your moans. Leave the black market silicone alone.
Mm-hmm.
Please. Also, I would tell some girls, it doesn't matter how tall, how short, confidence is key. If you're 6'4", don't let anyone tell you that you can't live your life as a woman. You know what I'm saying? It's all about confidence. That's how I see it.
That's
and
big.
Just love yourself and just take your time. You don't have to rush it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for that, Mulan. And Makayla, what would you say? We can't hear you, love.
I'm sorry. My bad. My advice to young girls is don't compare your transition to anybody else's. Everybody can't be Beyonce. Everybody can't be Nicki Minaj. Everybody can't be Rihanna. Live your life to the best that you can possibly be. Judge your transition off of yourself. Look at the women in your family. Those are the women you should be trying to emulate, to try to look like, because that's what you would genetically look like if you was genetically cisgender.
Or you might look like your daddy.
Live your life that you can, and don't let anybody tell you you can't have a job. Don't let anybody tell you you can't have a husband. Don't let anybody put all these negative incantations into your mind about what a transsexual person is. Live your life for yourself, not for everybody else.
Awesome. And Barbie?
I would say to the young trans girls, it's important to love yourself. I know it's a hard thing to do, especially when you're going through the metamorphosis that you will be going through. I think that it's the most important thing that you could possibly do for your longevity in this path, because you're going to go through a lot of things in life. There are going to be a lot of people that may try to break you, that may try to take you, that may just try to rearrange your mentality, but you have to be strong and you have to love yourself. There are going to be trials, there are going to be tribulations, there's going to be success. Honestly, the sky is not even the limit. The stratosphere, the universe is the limit. You can be anything today. You can do anything today. You can, and again, just not saying this with a whimsical idea, but in the reality of it is that everything that you want, you have to go out there and get it. No one's giving you anything anymore. And that includes respect, respect yourself. Respect the people around you. Love the people that love you. Take your time. Don't rush. It's not a competition. This is not a pageant or a rat race. You do not need to, measure yourself to anybody else and where they are in their transition, because what's meant for you is only meant for you, and can't nobody take that away from you regardless. And again, I stand tall and I stand proud and I say be you and always be authentic and honest and open with the people that are in your life. That's it.
Absolutely. And I want to add to that we all, we've said this several times, we all start somewhere. And so don't get discouraged. If I were to say something, it would be don't get discouraged. Don't get discouraged by, there are always going to be nasty people. There are always going to be rude people. There's always going to be somebody who has something to say about you. There's always going to be, but like they talked about Jesus and they still are, so there is, just live your life. Like all the girls here said, live your life, live your best life now, and be happy, because at the end of the day, that is what matters. That's what this is about, is you got to be happy with you, because nobody else is going to make you happy until you make yourself happy, Ladies, do you guys have anything else that you'd like to add before I let y'all go?
Happiness is a choice. Wake up every day and choose to be happy.
Absolutely.
And I just want to say congratulations to you, Tiara, on your show. I think it's going to be a success, girl.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you very much. Makayla, you have anything else you want to say, Mama?
Peace, love, and don't let anybody stop you. Even if your mother doesn't agree with your transition, that doesn't mean you have to stop. You can only live your life. You can't live your life for other people. You have to live your life for yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you
And
guys.
how to do your makeup.
Absolutely. Hey, did you guys hear about Sephora? What Sephora is doing? I think that's so awesome. They're teaching trans women how to apply their makeup. I think that's so awesome.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a trans program where they're teaching you how to feminize your face with makeup, which I think is great because makeup can really make a whole different attitude. A new lace, new makeup, have you feeling like you are on top of the
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I enjoyed you ladies being on the panel with you guys.
Same. I'm so glad you guys were here. We lost Lucy and we lost Savannah a little while ago, but that's okay. I'm glad they joined us as well. And ladies, I again thank you so much for being here. I will be seeing you guys again. We're gonna do a part 2 of this. So we will be seeing you guys. We will be hearing about you. If you guys have any events or anything coming up or anything that you guys would like to talk about here on the show, anytime, inbox me, let me know, and I'm going to bring you guys on so we can talk about whatever it is, because this platform is for all of us. This platform is so that we can start making a difference, starting right where we are here and expounding that outward, okay?
Right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Bye, ladies. You guys can your calls whenever you like. Bye. Thank you again. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. I'm so glad that those ladies were here. I'm so glad that we had such an amazing conversation. I hope that you guys learned something today because I know I learned something today. And so, and I hope you guys did as well. I just want to, just a couple of notes. Oh, we got to do the contest. So, doesn't look like there's very many people viewing right now, but I'm going to go ahead and do the contest anyways and do the drawing because we said we were going to do it this episode. So if you are chosen in the comment section, hi Soviet Union, hi Jeremy Hanley, I see that you're watching. Jeremy, it's okay. It will be on YouTube. You'll be able to watch it later on. It'll be up in a minute. But if you are not online right now, then you are not eligible for the prize. But if you are still watching the video right now, we're going to pick a winner. And if you are online, please just hit or send a message in the chat and we'll get with you to figure out how we get our money to you, okay? How we get your money to you. And the first name that I'm pulling is Leo 081478. That's the screen name, or that's the channel name. Leo 081478. If you are on, shoot a message in the comments right now. If you're not, we're going to move on to the next person. While we're waiting to see if Leo is on, I just want to go over just a couple more things with you guys really quick. So first of all, the guests that were here were awesome today. Next week, we're doing this all over again with part 2, and that's going to be with the guys. We've got 4 amazing guys that are going to be here that are going to be answering some questions. And just like we had here, we're going to have some dialogue. And I think that's how we start educating people, is through dialogue. So I want to, again, just say next week's episode is All Things Trans Part 2, Guide Code. Okay, so it does not look like Leo is on. So the next name that we are pulling is Shane Danger. Shane Dangers. Shane, if you are online right now, if you will hit in the comments that you are online at the moment, then we will connect with you and get your prize to you. If you are not in the comments, I'm going to give you a couple moments to respond. If you are not here at the moment, unfortunately, you do not qualify for the prize. And we're going to pull one more name in just a moment. We're going to give Shane just another moment to see if he is on. And I don't have Shane. It does not look like Shane is on at the moment. And I don't have, let me double check. Okay, so hi Chuck Bass, how are you? Thank you so much for joining us. Hey, listen, so it looks like the last name that we're pulling for the night is going to be Insta, INSTA, Tingles, TINGLES. Insta Tingles. If you are online right now and are able to send a message, then you are our winner for the night. If you're not, then next week we will continue the contest and we'll draw names. We'll take out these 3 names and continue to draw names until we get a winner. Are you on right now, Insta? Oh, it's my brother. Which brother, Chuck Bass? Oh, is that Chris? Hey, Chris. You missed the show. You better share this video. Thanks for joining, though. Thanks for coming in and stopping by. I'm going to give it a couple more minutes to see if any of the 3 names selected are online. No problem, Chris. Just make sure you share the video. It'll be up. It'll be posted right after this. Well, it does not look like any of the 3 selected names or selected subscribers are online at the moment. Give me 1 second. I have a Facebook message. It might be one of them. It is not. So, unfortunately, they're not online right now. So, next week, we are going to continue with this, with the contest. Somebody has a chance to still win a $100 cash prize. Of course, we discussed it already. It's a $25 gift card to Bed Bath & Beyond and $75 cash. We are still wanting to give away that money. You're still eligible. If you're in the running, you are still in the running. We'll just do it again next week. Want to thank you guys so much for tuning in today. This has been the Trans Sister Radio Show with your host, me, Tiara Latrice Kelly. I hope you guys will join us every week. Like I said, we've got some incredible shows coming up. I've got some amazing people lined up that I'm trying to get on here. So just stick around, stay tuned. And I'm so glad that you guys tuned in today. If you were here, if not, and you're watching this later, thank you for watching. I hope you learned something today like I did. Again, thank you. And y'all have a wonderful week. We'll see you next Sunday, 7 p.m., same time, same place. See you later, guys. Be kind to one another. Bye.